Thank you all so much for being here today. So let's sit up nice and tall and close the eyes. And with the eyes closed, take a nice breath in and a nice breath out. And just allow yourself to land gently into this moment, into this space. Notice that the breath is moving in and out of your body, and it's carrying life force. It's carrying potential. Feel that potential. Embrace that potential. Recognize it. Notice where it goes in your body. Potentially it begins somewhere around the heart space, but then the potential moves out from the heart, maybe into the hands, into the feet, into the eyes, the ears, into the nose, the mouth, into the entirety of the body, into the mind, into our self-expression, into the way we walk through the world, the way we conduct our relationships, into the experience of faith and into the experience of suffering, into the experience of fear and into the experience of freedom. So in this moment, just acknowledge that all of that is with you in this and every other moment. And then set a sankalpa, an intention, that no matter what phase, what part of the path you're walking on, no matter what experience it is that comes your way, that you'll consider the relationship between fear and freedom. And that in that moment, no matter what you choose, you will choose knowingly. And that you will continue to work toward choosing what brings great freedom to your heart and great freedom to your mind. Drawing the hands together in front of the heart. Together we'll lift our voices in one beautiful Om and 3 Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Take a nice breath in for Om. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And then bowing your head towards your heart, acknowledging all beings everywhere, including self. And draw the face back to center, release the hands. Welcome. So today we come here to talk about fear and freedom. In the Vedas, in the Vedic sciences, of which yoga is part, they suggest that fear is when we become too attached to the material aspect of life, such that we become afraid of losing things. We become very invested in our car, in our house, in our bank account. We become invested in our promotions. We become invested to the degree that it moves beyond healthy investment and turns into an unhealthy investment. In the Vedic writings, they acknowledge that as humans, we need to have shelter, food, water, the necessities for life, and we should contribute our energy into acquiring those things for ourselves and for all others also. But when it moves, when our focus, when our investment moves from a place of cultivating what we need to grasping at what we want, fear sets in. Why does fear set in? Because even though we plan for changes, we have a retirement plan. We plan for college. We plan for marriage. We also plan for divorce. We plan for all kinds of things in life. So we understand that change happens. And we do plan for some of that change. Still, we don't plan and we can't plan for the changes that are largely unknown to us. What's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen in the world around us? And that inability to plan for the future brings about a sense of fear. Because even when we plan for certain changes in life, like with our retirement plan, it's still not guaranteed. We do our very best. But still, even the things that we plan for, the outcome is out of our hands. And on some level, we know this. Maybe the bank goes under and we lose our investment. Or something else in life happens. And the thing that we were planning for gets turned on its head. There's a story that we always share as an example of that, where, one person works for a long period of time to save up enough money to buy a car. They have their eye on this really nice little red sports car, little convertible, weather's getting nice out, and they know that, on May 15th is the day. They get that paycheck, they go down and they hand that money in, and they buy that car outright, and they're so excited. And once they get that car, they'll finally be happy. Things will be good. And they've invested so much into the story of the car. They've seen themselves driving down the highway on their way to the beach, music blaring, bopping a little bit to a really great song. The day comes, they go down, they put the money on the table, they get the keys to the car, they get into the car, they drive off the lot, and they get into an accident. Where's their happiness? Invested in the car that is highly transient in nature, that is not permanent in any way, shape, or form. Now what will they do? They'll suffer as a result. It's not to say don't have dreams. Of course have dreams. And if you like red convertibles, then by all means, work toward having one. But understand that it's not permanent. It's not permanent. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said to Arjuna that we get caught up in our suffering and in our fear particularly because we don't recognize what is transient and what is permanent. We invest in the transient and we largely ignore or simply are not aware of the permanent because we're so caught up in the transient aspects of living. The car, the house, the promotion. Fear takes hold because we want life to be a certain way. We just want to be happy. And we're afraid that we won't be, that we'll be let down somehow. And that causes us great suffering. On some level, we know what's transient. On some level, we know, that if we go out driving on a night like last night, there's a possibility that, we may have an issue on the road with our car, and then life will change. And we don't have an alternate plan for our happiness. The car is there, the house is there, the promotion might be there. But what if none of those things turn out? What if none of those things turn out to be the key to your happiness? Where will you look then? What will you look for? And how will you recognize it? Well, I'll just work harder and get another car. I'll go back to school and get another career. I'll go on a singles dating site and get another husband or wife or partner. And then the cycle continues over and over and over again. Because still, we're looking for our happiness in the things that are transient, and the fact that they're transient causes us great fear of losing, of not realizing the full potential. So what does fear do to us? Well, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it says that fear causes and comes from duality. Fear causes and comes from duality. Fear causes duality. It causes me to see others as separate from myself. So fear causes that. We're afraid of people who aren't like us, who don't live near us, who have different cultural customs than we do, who speak louder or softer than we do, who carry a different energy pattern than we do, who laugh differently than we do, who love differently than we do. Fear sets in because we see them as different from ourselves. So fear causes this experience of duality, of seeing things as separate that are really at the very spiritual base not at all separate, flowing from the same cosmic consciousness, flowing from the same breath that moves through all things everywhere. So fear causes this. Fear brings about a sense of aloneness. It brings about a sense of, what's going to happen to me in this world? How will I ever become who I'm meant to be? How will I ever realize my dreams? I guess maybe I just shouldn't. And so fear shuts us down. It stifles our creativity. It causes us to lose faith. Fear requires all our energy because it's like a great fire that's burning away your inspiration to live a good, creative, healthy, happy, whole life. What's the solution to fear? To not seek happiness through things that are outside of yourself. That's the first thing. To not seek happiness through items, objects, or persons outside of yourself. And the second is to seek and embrace that which brings you freedom. That sounds nice, right? What is freedom? Freedom is freedom from attachment, freedom from the suffering that happens when the car that you just bought, takes a dive, driving out of the parking lot. Maybe you get a little sad, but you also recognize that this too will change. This just happened to change a little faster than some other things, that's all. Or a little slower than some other things. So we stop looking outside of ourselves We stop depending upon the transient things for our happiness. And instead, we seek the permanent. We look at what is permanent. And really, there's only one or two things that we can talk about that are permanent. In our human experience, love. Because underlying every emotion, underlying every relationship, no matter if you like the person or not, underlying every action, every thought, every word that we will ever experience is the longing to be loved and the longing to love others. But then the imbalanced ego kicks in and says, but if I love them, what happens if they don't love me back? Then my investment will have been wasted. And just that alone stifles our growth and our creativity and our ability to see each other in a way that is not dual, non-duality. The second thing that we can talk about as permanent, and we're going to go back to the love in a moment, but it's important first to say the true permanence, the true essence of permanence is the cosmic consciousness. That is the essence of all things everywhere, no matter what it is that you're talking about. You know, we breathe in because the trees breathe out. We breathe out and the trees breathe in. There is one breath that moves through this world and through this universe, just one, and we're all sharing it. Just one breath. That's not dual. That right there shows, it indicates that we are so very reliant upon each other for our wellness, for an understanding of what the power of community is, what the power of consciousness is, what the power of peace is. That if we come together as a community, realizing that we are so much more the same than we will ever be different, then it frees our hearts and it frees our minds from the fear that kept us separated for so long. Now, I'm not saying go home and throw your arms around the person who you feel hurt you. Might not be a bad idea in certain instances, but that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is recognize their suffering. Recognize that all actions without exception, come from either a place of fear or a place of freedom. There is no in between. Fear manifests when we see each other as different, separate from each other. Bless you. Freedom comes when we see each other as one. And not just human each others, but non-human beings also, and trees and grass and flowers, and birds and fish, and stars and suns and planets. When all of these things in our mind is seen in unity with each other, in a beautiful symbiotic relationship, fear leaves and freedom is present. And what can we do with freedom? We can love wholly, completely, without fear. What does that look like? It's something very special. And you've all most likely had moments of it in your life. The moms with the children, the husbands and the wives and the wives, the husbands and the husbands, the good friends. You've all had moments of solidarity. Solidarity that is built upon freedom is solidarity that will continue. Solidarity that is built upon fear will not last long. Solidarity that is built on freedom allows us to hold space for each other, to love each other, to appreciate our similarities and the things that we see as diversity. We begin to recognize resiliency rather than blaming people and calling people failures. We begin to recognize that everyone in our community is doing the best they can with the tools they believe they have. And it doesn't really matter if you think, well, they have other tools too. If they don't see those tools because they're afraid, then it doesn't matter. Because they're afraid, and the first thing they need to do is work on the fear so that they can have enough freedom to see a bigger picture. A bigger picture that includes more love, more acceptance, more peace, more faith, unity. I had a student one time who came and said, "Why do you always talk about peace and love? Were you a hippie in the 60s? So I was a little baby in the 60s. But I should have been born in the 50s, so I could have been a hippie in the 60s. I would have fit right in, totally. But the reality is that I talk about peace and love and compassion because they're the only qualities that can counter fear, hate, and ignorance. That's the simple truth of the matter. If you want to conquer hate, you must be love. If you want to conquer ignorance, then you must be wise. If you want to conquer fear, then you must be free. Anything less won't do it. Anything less will bring moments of perceived freedom that will pass too. Because this too shall pass. Is it possible to experience absolute freedom? Absolutely. The great teachers all say yes, it is. It is possible to live a life that is absolutely free of fear. But first we have to be willing to put the fear down, to stop relying on it like a crutch, to see it for what it is, to honor it because it has served a purpose. It has brought us to this moment. It has been part of a path, the path of your awakening, the path of my awakening. It's relevant. It's not something to be tossed into the garbage or out the window. It's not something to be avoided or shunned. It's something to be awakened into its opposite, which is freedom. And so we walk this path of life and we say, I just want to be happy. And yet we don't tend to know really what that means. Where are you going to get it from? I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to go over there. And then we open our hand at what we grasped, and there's nothing there. Because that too changed. So we can't find freedom outside. It has to be a decision that we make, and it's an active decision. In this life, it is active, not passive. Every moment that we feel fear coming in, that we feel judgment, that we feel anger, we can stop and choose to look at it, to welcome it, And then to ask it to integrate into the greater wholeness of our being so that it too can experience healing. Otherwise, fear will be dual instead of evolved into another state. When we come to the point of freedom, we come to the point of being able to love fully and wholly, being able to hold space for others and for ourselves. We stop judging critically. Of course, we're still going to have judgments. We're going to be like, I really don't like spinach. I really like chocolate. You know, that's going to be present because we're human and we have this tendency. But we won't make critical judgments about others in order to bolster ourselves. Instead, we'll see the beautiful strength and resiliency that we both have, that we share. We'll recognize the qualities of the things that bring us closer together, not what takes us further apart. Ever since you were a little child, potentially from the moment you were born, there was a deep longing in your heart, a longing in your heart to go home, to know yourself, to be happy. The more you study what you are afraid of, acknowledge its presence, invite it to change, invite the change. Don't be afraid of it, invite the change. The more freedom you experience, and the closer to home you move, the closer to home you become, the closer to you. And then suddenly something amazing happens along this journey. And I don't know exactly when it happens, it's different for everybody. But suddenly one morning you wake up and you look outside the window and you see that there is so much stark beauty, not only in the blue sky, but also in the stormy clouds. Not only on the perfect 78-degree spring day when everything is blossoming, but also on the 26-degree frigidly cold winter day. Not only in the people that you're comfortable with, who you feel know you, but also in the people who you don't know, who have so much to share with you, so many stories, so much life, and so much love. If you had the opportunity to speak with 10 people from around the world who you never knew, never met before, from cultures and places that you have no idea about, just think for a moment how much wiser you would be. But instead we say, no, those North Koreans are bad. No, those other people are bad. No, those other people are too different. No, they're a threat. I'm afraid of them. Let's go beat them up. Right? It's not the answer. It's not. Violence only begets violence. Violence will never bring peace. Never. Never. The only thing that will bring peace, the only thing that will bring peace is unity and love within that unity and acceptance within that unity and freedom, which is the unity. I believe it is also the Upanishad. It says, how do we experience freedom? How do we get there? It sounds so delicious, doesn't it? It's like, oh, this freedom sounds so wonderful. How do we do it? What do we do? What are the steps? 1, 2, 3. Give me the deal. Number 1, you need to acknowledge that you're afraid. If you don't acknowledge that you're afraid, then you will never address the fear. You'll just keep holding it inside of yourself, where it will continue to grow. Number two, once you have acknowledged the fear, you need to look at it on all levels. Not just the superficial levels that are obvious to us, but how many different ways it manifests in life, how many different ways it comes to us, how many different ways we go to it. And then we need to acknowledge and make a decision to change our relationship to fear, and to invite compassionate love and compassionate acceptance into our day-to-day life. Again, not throwing the fear out the window, but as an essence, as an energy, it too has a consciousness. Invite it to integrate into a higher level of vibration. Turn it into love. Turn it into freedom. And then they say mantra. Mantra. To chant. Because when we chant, we lose ourselves. When we chant, we lose all other thoughts except for what we're chanting, eventually. And that's freedom. When the mind is focused on one thing and one thing alone, and it's not distracted by all the 10,000 things out here, it's focused. And what it focuses on, it becomes. And what it focuses on, it manifests. And therefore, within the mantra, we're free to realize our greatest dreams and inspirations, and the greatest dream and inspiration, which is absolute unity, absolutely. Absolute freedom, absolutely. So let's close the eyes for a moment. We're going to do a little experiment. With the eyes closed, take a breath in and a breath out. And in a moment, we're going to chant just two very simple words. Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Om Peace. And as we chant Om Shanti, notice how you feel. Notice the moments when the fear starts to slip away and the freedom becomes obvious. And don't judge that it should be faster or slower or more obvious. It'll be what it's going to be. Join me when you're ready. Om Shanti. Om Shanti, 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 Om Shanti. Om Shanti, 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 Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Keep the eyes closed. Notice how you feel inside. Notice if there was a shift in any direction at all from a little shift to a great big shift. And with great awareness, notice how you feel when you flutter your eyes open. Do you feel that? Was it there for you? Even just a little, or maybe a lot. The eyes got heavy. The heart slowed down. The breath got deeper. And the body starts to relax. Who felt that? Raise your hand. To some degree. Yeah. And if you didn't, it's okay. Because if you continue, you will. You will. It's guaranteed that eventually it will come to you. But first we need to acknowledge that we have fear. And then we need to do something about that. And we can't say, well, you know, I have a little bit of fear, but I really think that your fear is more than mine. That's not useful. Or we might say, well, okay, I acknowledge I have fear, but you know, their fear is worse than mine. Right? Don't you think? That won't work either. We need to focus on what we are afraid of and what we are afraid of only, and then honor the fact that all others are afraid too. And then work to bring about a sense of greater freedom within ourselves, which automatically gives others the permission necessary, psychological permission necessary, to experience freedom too. And sometimes, if there's a resistance, if we're like, well, I don't know, I just can't break through this wall. Like I know that there's got to be fear there, but I can't put my finger on it, or I can't, I don't know what it is, you know, or I know there's freedom there, but I don't know what it is. Sometimes you have to give yourself verbal permission. Because for years we've been telling ourselves mentally, no, 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 no. So to start to say yes, 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 is a hard transition to make. But some of you, when I started saying no, started doing this. Right? And you know who you are. Your face changed. Your tension changed. Because you know that that word is based in fear. And then when I started saying yes, you started smiling. Your face lightened up. You relaxed. Because you know that in the word yes, freedom exists. It doesn't mean that you're saying yes to things, you know, that are unreasonable. What it means is that you're saying yes to freedom. You're saying yes to goodness. You're saying yes to love. You're saying yes to unity. Yes to non-duality. Yes to self-realization. Yes to awakening. You're saying yes to all that is amazing and wonderful. And by saying yes to those things, you don't have to worry about the others. It's a non-issue. But we are human, and it is a process, and it doesn't happen quickly for anybody. Any questions or thoughts? Yes, Kel.
So without exception, none. I'm not sure how you said it, but every thought, every action, is either coming from fear or freedom.
Correct. Without exception. 100%. Imagine what you can do understanding that, right? You can stop. Every time that you start to get carried away with something, and you can say, are these thoughts coming from fear or freedom? And if they're coming from freedom, great. Not the kind of freedom that's like fist pumping. I'm free. You're not. Not that kind of freedom. But the freedom that unifies us. The highest freedom. If they're coming from fear, then all you need to do is acknowledge it, and you become a little more free. Then you can follow that acknowledgement with action. Action to choose to look at it a little differently, to speak a little differently, to walk a little differently, to imagine a little differently. There's a great book called The Great Imagination, and it's about the Vedantic perspective of being alive. And some of you may have heard this said elsewhere, that in Advaita Vedanta, which is one of the schools of wisdom, one of the spiritual schools from India, they say, our problem is not the body, and the problem is really not the mind either. The problem is that we're asleep. The problem is that we are confused. We think the unreal is real, and therefore we don't seek what is real. And all we have to do is wake up. That's all we have to do. Wake up. Wake up. That's it. They should have followed that with, but it's going to take a really long time. Keep hitting that snooze button. Yeah. But the beautiful thing is that the more we realize it, the more we look at it, the more we study it, the more we acknowledge it, the freer we become on a multitude of levels. Yeah. Yes? No? Okay.
Unless you're Eckhart Tolle.
Unless what?
You're Eckhart Tolle.
Well, unless you're Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, then you
Yeah.
woke up instantly.
It's not that that doesn't happen. Of course it can happen to people. Anything is possible. It's not up to us to say no, right? We all know how that makes us feel. It makes us cringe. So if Eckhart Tolle had an awakening, I'm happy for him. Absolutely. And it doesn't really matter if we think he did or we think he didn't. What matters is how we're investing our time and energy into our awakening. He writes beautiful books, and he can write 10,000 beautiful books. Those books are great reading. But what will you do with the wisdom he offers? Will you embody it? Will you grow with it? Will you change with it? That's the gift he gives the world. Yeah, that's the gift he gives the world, is that he invites the world to join him where he perceives himself to be. He doesn't say, or at least I don't think he says, I'm here, you're there. You stay there. I'll be here. He writes books so that we can all join him. He goes out and does speaking engagements so that we can all join him. Dalai Lama does the same thing. Thich Nhat Hanh does the same thing. All of the great saints and sages did the same thing. They didn't keep you separated from them. They invited you to come, to gather, to know yourself, to be free. Yeah. Any other questions? Any other comments? Did you find it useful, the conversation today? Yeah? What will you do? How will you walk out of here today? With more freedom in your heart? A little bit more inspiration to seek that within yourself? and not in the material world so much. And maybe be kind to others, because you know that they're fighting a battle too. And it's a battle that takes a long time for most to win. But if we walk together hand in hand, the journey will be so much more healing, so much more. So let's sit tall, close the eyes. Draw the hands together in front of the heart. Take a moment to breathe in and breathe out. Know yourself as the essence of freedom. Know yourself as the essence of unity. Know yourself as the essence of love. And together we'll chant one beautiful Om and one All Beings mantra. Take a nice breath in. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. May the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Now and always honoring your light and the light of all beings everywhere. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being here today. So good to see each and every one of you. May your light shine brightly. May you know freedom today and every day, for at least a few minutes at a time. May you know that, and may you embrace it. Wonderful. Have a beautiful day.